That is really good.
Oh my god.
Grace, the birthday person, isn't even that big of a Twilight fan. But when given the opportunity to put Edward Cullen on a cake, one must put Edward Cullen on a cake. Twilight is all about 17-year-olds. Bella was 17 when she met Edward, who is 17. Well, sort of. I'll explain that later. While I was researching for what I could say, like those podcast clips under the stolen gaming video stuff, I learned Edward and Alice likely committed insider trading, which is funny. Everyone has their own take on Twilight. I personally really enjoy it. I own it both on Amazon Prime and I recently got physical DVD copies. Physical media is a topic for another day. I haven't read the book since middle school, but I'm hoping to change that this year. Let me know if y'all would like a video about that. Since I haven't read the books in a long time, and I've never read Midnight Sun, oh boy, do I want to though. My thoughts on Twilight will likely not fully reflect the reality. I think Edward is a freaky little creep. He watches Bella sleep. Now, I'm not talking about when she's aware of it and they're dating or whatever, and it's like kind of consensual or whatever. I'm talking about before that. That's messed up. We're gonna pretend that was a really smooth transition to why I'm thinking about and will be talking about vampire cognition. Now, maybe it's my bachelor's degree in sort of psychology, or maybe I just fixated on the Twilight series too much, but I spend a weird amount of time contemplating about how the Cullens' minds might work. The Cullens being frozen in time is wild. Though their ages matter, it's not what we're going to fixate on here. Instead, we're going to focus on their mental states when they returned. Carlisle was a vampire hunter. Edward was a teen who wanted to be a soldier, but his mom wouldn't let him. Esme was turned after losing her infant son, and Rosalie was turned after being and left for dead. Emmett was turned after being mauled by a bear. Jasper was turned while serving as a major in the Confederate Army. And Alice was turned while she was institutionalized and being electroshock therapy tortured. Well, let's not get into the timeline on that. That is a lot of baggage. If they were truly frozen, they wouldn't be able to move past it in any way. But they do. Which proves that they're only frozen in time physically and not mentally. Edward, in particular, the star of the cake we're making right now, has earned multiple degrees, including graduate degrees. He has adapted to the fashion trends, the social norms, and the tech of this era. He's self-reflective, which you might call brooding. And while he's old-fashioned in his concepts of chivalry and protection, he's clearly evolved from when he was turned. If I were more studious, I could definitely make a 3 to 5 hour video essay, you know the type, about the cognition of Twilight vampires, and for all I know, maybe someone has. It's never come across my feed, but I've also never searched for it. For now, I'm going to try to pinpoint where that really broad topic of thought was going. Edward, although 17, is actually 104 when he meets Bella, which with Ray math gives him a 512% age gap with Bella. If I dated someone 512% older than me, they'd be 153. If I flipped that and reversed that, they'd be negative 103 years old. That is not even possible, obviously. Let's be generous, and let's say that Edward ages mentally slower than what his physical age would have been. We'll say he ages at about 25% the rate he would have if he had stayed human. He'd be 21.75 years old when he met Bella. Now, this is definitely by no means good, but it's not horrible. Reality is worse. Edward likely aged at 150% to 200% of the normal human rate. This idea comes from the fact that he lived over a century, was constantly exposed through telepathy to other people's thoughts, repeated high school and college dozens of times, and spent decades wrestling with his own self. Not to mention, they don't sleep. That's more time, baby. That type of introspection should compound his brain. I don't know. His mental maturity. Alright. Using that math, when he met Bella, he was mentally between 130 and 147 years old. That's not just creepy, baby. He's ancient up there. Anyway, that's the kind of stuff one thinks about when they're making a really beautiful Twilight cake. I'm not too sure why cake is the hardest word in the world for me to say, but it is, apparently. Hopefully you enjoyed my mini video essay about Twilight. I know it's a bit distracting over top of the cake footage, so if you didn't see, I also uploaded a version of this where I have no voiceover and I don't go on a rant about Edward and his inappropriate age gap with Bella, which, mind you, it's very inappropriate, even if you exclude all of the Ray math. It's not great. I think Twilight is one of those really interesting things where you can argue, or maybe not argue, but discuss like so many different topics from. It's got like this spiraling web of potential of how you take it, because you can also, in the same breath that you argue Edward's too old, argue then what are vampires supposed to do, you know? Like, are new vampires... I don't know. I'm not good at arguing pro giant age gaps. That's not my specialty, but I've heard it done with Twilight, so I know people do that. I'm a little too human about my arguments, and I don't think big age gaps are good or okay. I do feel that I'm beating the age gap issue into the ground, so to slightly pivot, like another topic I find really interesting when it comes to Twilight is religion in Twilight. It's super, super interesting. I think Twilight's one of those like niche interests of mine. I don't know how niche it is. I don't know if anyone else shares this. Do any of y'all just find Twilight to be gripping in a weird way? Let me know, because I definitely don't really like any of the romance in it. I mean, romance is fine. The movies do a better job, in my opinion, than the books, because the movies get to leave out a lot of the creepiness or the controllingness. There's a lot less of it in the movies, in my again, unread, basically, opinion. So I love just giving opinions, apparently, on things I'm not prepared to give the opinions on. It's okay, though. Twilight is a work of fiction, so it's fine. This discussion shouldn't change anyone's mind or worldviews in a bad way. It's about a book about a sparkly vampire. So, speaking of sparkly, there I am putting sparkles on his face, just white gems, you know. And then I was trying to be accurate to the image of him in the scene where where they say, like, how long have you been 17? And he says a while. So iconic. The first movie's just so good. We're doing it opposite. Chat eats last, Grace eats first. It's her birthday. Show Grace for the grand reveal, and then I'll show you guys.
Wow, that is really good.
So we're gonna take a picture of it.
3, 2, 1. No, I'm impressed. 3, 2, 1.
How did that look?
This is the best cake I've ever made in my life. The moment you've all been waiting for. The cake thirst trap? What am I supposed to call this?